The air froze as their eyes met across the crowded diner, his hand instinctively reaching for the weapon beneath his jacket. But no one could have predicted how that forbidden necklace would bind their fates in blood and desire. Where are you watching this dangerous tale from? Drop a comment below and hit subscribe for more heart-stopping mafia romances that will leave you breathless. The neon sign flickered as Victor Salvatore stepped into the dingy roadside diner, away from the torrential rain. His security detail waited in black SUVs outside, standard protocol for the most feared mafia boss in the eastern seaboard. "Just coffee. Black," he muttered without looking up. His fingers drummed against the tabletop, mind calculating the logistics of tonight's operation. 50 million in uncut diamonds required personal attention. "Anything else?" The voice was soft but steady. Victor glanced up and the words died in his throat. The waitress couldn't have been more than 25, with defiant eyes. But it wasn't her face that froze his blood. It was the small silver pendant hanging from her neck, the Costello family crest. His hand moved instinctively toward his concealed weapon. The Costellos had been at war with the Salvatores for 3 generations. Victor had personally put 2 Costello brothers in the ground last year. "Where did you get that?" His voice was dangerously quiet. The woman's hand touched the pendant. "It was my mother's." Victor's mind raced. The Costellos were supposed to be finished. He'd tracked down every last family member except Maria Costello, who had disappeared 26 years ago, pregnant with the Costello heir. The waitress, her name tag read Emma, stepped back. "Is there a problem?" Victor made a cold calculation. If this woman was the lost Costello heir, her existence threatened everything. His rivals would rally behind her if they discovered her identity. "That necklace is very unique." Emma's fingers tightened around the coffee pot. "It's just a family heirloom." "Family," Victor repeated. "I knew your family quite well." Her expression changed subtly. She knew something. Victor grasped her wrist with enough pressure to communicate the gravity of the situation. "Sit down, Emma Costello." "My last name is Bennett. Not by birth." Victor released her wrist. "We have much to discuss and very little time. Your life depends on the next 5 minutes." Emma glanced toward the door, calculating her odds. "Don't," Victor warned softly. "My men would catch you before you reached the highway." Slowly, she slid into the booth. Thunder cracked outside, throwing the diner into momentary darkness. "You have 2 options," he said. "Die tonight as Emma Bennett, waitress and last surviving Costello, or survive as my fiancé." Emma's eyes widened. "You're insane." "I'm practical. The only way to keep you alive is to make you untouchable." "And the only way to make you untouchable is to claim you as mine." "Why would you protect me?" "Your family killed mine." Victor smiled coldly. "Because dead, you're a martyr. Alive and under my control, you're insurance." The old families respect marriage alliances more than they fear blood feuds. The diner door chimed as 2 of his men entered, shaking off rain. "Decide now," Victor hissed. Emma's eyes darted between him and the approaching men. The pendant trembled against her throat. "Yes or no, Emma?" "Yes," she whispered, hatred burning in her eyes. "But you'll regret this." Victor smiled as his men reached the table. "Gentlemen, meet my fiancé. We have a wedding to plan." Behind her eyes, Victor could see the promise of retribution. Good. He preferred his enemies close. And none had ever been closer than the woman who now wore his engagement ring alongside her family's crest. The storm outside was nothing compared to what was coming. Emma's hands shook as she packed her belongings into a worn duffel bag. 30 minutes. That's all Victor Salvatore had given her before disappearing into his world. Her cramped studio apartment had been her sanctuary for 3 years. Her mother's deathbed warning echoed, "Never let them know who you are. They'll kill you like they killed your father." Her fingers closed around the silver pendant. Now, She was about to marry into the very family that had destroyed hers. The phone Victor had given her chimed. A text message. Car outside. Now. Emma grabbed the chef's knife from her kitchen drawer and concealed it in her bag. If she was walking into the lion's den, she wouldn't go completely defenseless. The black SUV waited in the rain. The driver, a stone-faced man with a scar, didn't speak as he took her bag. Victor sat inside, focused on a tablet. Your apartment will be cleared completely by morning, he said without looking up. Emma Bennett no longer exists. And what exactly am I supposed to be now? Emma demanded. Victor finally looked at her, calculating. My salvation and my captive. Depends on how you behave. The SUV pulled away. Through the window, Emma watched her life disappear. The story is simple, Victor continued. We've been seeing each other secretly for months. I was keeping you hidden for your protection. Now I've decided to make our relationship public. And people will believe that? The waitress and the Mafia boss? A cold smile crossed Victor's face. People will believe what I tell them to believe. The city lights blurred outside as they headed toward the affluent district. There are rules, Victor said. First, you don't go anywhere without security. Second, you don't speak to anyone about your real identity. As far as the world is concerned, you're Emma Bennett, soon to be Emma Salvatore. The name sent a chill down her spine. How long do you plan to keep up this charade? Until it's no longer necessary. What's to stop me from running? Victor leaned forward. Because I'm not the only one who would hunt you. There are others, families who would pay millions to control the last Costello. The SUV turned through an imposing gate, approaching a sprawling mansion. Security cameras tracked their movement, and Emma counted at least 4 armed guards. Welcome home, Victor said as the vehicle stopped. Your prison and your protection. A woman waited in the foyer, elegantly dressed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Emma, meet my mother, Sofia Salvatore. The woman's gaze cut through Emma, lingering on the pendant. So this is the girl who's captured my son's heart. Her tone made it clear she believed nothing of the sort. Mother will help you prepare for tonight's dinner, Victor explained. The family is gathering to meet my bride-to-be. Tonight? You're introducing me to your entire family tonight? No time like the present. Victor's hand settled on the small of her back, a warning disguised as affection. As Victor walked away, Sophia's fingers closed around Emma's arm with surprising strength. Let me make something perfectly clear, she whispered. I know exactly who you are. Play your part, and you might survive this. Cross him, and I'll kill you myself. Emma met the older woman's gaze. I don't know what game he's playing, but I'm not afraid of you. Sophia's laugh was like breaking glass. The Salvatore women have always been more dangerous than the men. She gestured toward the staircase. Now come. We have a performance to prepare for. Somewhere in this house might be information about her family. If she was going to survive, she needed leverage. The pendant felt suddenly heavy against her skin, a target and a talisman. Tonight, she would face the family that had destroyed hers. And somehow, she had to convince them all she was in love with their heir. The dress was blood red, an intentional choice, Emma was certain, as Sophia helped her zip into the silk gown. The pendant had been removed from her neck, Victor's orders. Can't have the Costello crest on display at a Salvatore family dinner, Sophia had remarked, locking the necklace away. Think of it as the first of many sacrifices. Standing before the mirror, Emma barely recognized herself. The waitress was gone, transformed into someone who could plausibly stand beside a man like Victor Salvatore. Remember, Sophia instructed, you've been seeing my son in secret for 3 months. You met at a charity gala. You work in art restoration. Any deviation from the story will be problematic. Victor entered without waiting, his dark suit impeccably tailored. He stopped when he saw Emma, something unreadable flickering across his face. Leave us, he commanded his mother. Victor circled Emma slowly. You clean up well. Is that supposed to be a compliment? It's an observation. He stepped closer. Tonight is crucial. My family must believe this engagement is real. They must see a woman hopelessly in love with me. Emma turned to face him. I'm not an actress. Then learn quickly. His hand moved to her face, thumb brushing across her lower lip in a gesture both intimate and threatening. Because if anyone doubts us, the consequences will be severe. He reached into his pocket and removed a ring box. Inside was a massive diamond. Your engagement ring. Wear it proudly. As he slid the ring onto her finger, his touch lingered. One more thing, he added, pulling her suddenly against him. We need to be convincing. Before Emma could react, Victor's lips claimed hers in a kiss that was possessive and calculated. She stiffened, hands pushing at his chest, but he held firm until she stopped resisting. That, he said quietly, is how you kiss someone you're desperately in love with. Not like you're being tortured. Practice again. This time when he kissed her, Emma forced herself to respond, hating herself for the performance and hating him more for demanding it. Better. Now let's go. The Salvatore dining room was medieval in its grandeur, a long table beneath a chandelier that dripped crystal. As Victor led Emma in, conversations hushed. Everyone, I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Emma Bennett. The silence was deafening before erupting into exclamations and questions. Emma plastered on a smile that felt like broken glass as Victor guided her through introductions. Uncle Carmine took Emma's hand, studying her with uncomfortable intensity. So you're the woman who's captured our Victor's heart. He's never brought anyone home before. I guess I got lucky, Emma replied, squeezing Victor's arm in what appeared to be affection, but was actually terror. Luck has nothing to do with the Salvatore family, my dear. They moved on to a younger man with glazed eyes. My cousin Anthony, Victor introduced, recently returned from a sabbatical. Rehab, Anthony corrected. Third time's the charm. Congratulations on taming the beast. What's your secret? As they took their seats, Emma felt a presence behind her chair. So the prodigal son returns with a bride, came a low voice. How convenient. Victor tensed as he looked up. Marco, I didn't think you'd be joining us. Marco Salvatore, Victor's younger brother, rested his hands on the back of Emma's chair. And miss meeting the woman who's apparently stolen my brother's heart. Marco moved to face Emma. Though I find myself wondering why we've never heard of you before today. We wanted privacy, Victor said smoothly. Marco's eyes never left Emma's. Privacy. Yes, my brother values that above all things. He reached for Emma's hand, examining the ring. Impressive, almost as if he's trying to buy loyalty. Emma pulled her hand away. The only thing your brother has bought me is dinner. My loyalty isn't for sale. Marco laughed. She has fire, Victor. He took his seat, raising his wineglass in a mocking toast. To the happy couple, may your secrets keep you warm at night. During dessert, Anthony, now drunk, leaned toward Emma. That necklace you were wearing earlier, before Victor made you take it off, looked familiar. The table fell silent. Emma's blood turned to ice. What necklace? Marco asked, suddenly alert. Victor's hand found Emma's under the table, squeezing hard. A simple pendant, Victor answered casually. Family heirloom from Emma's mother. Nothing significant. Looked like a crest, Anthony persisted, frowning. It's just a decorative design, Emma said. My mother never explained its meaning before she died. The moment passed, but Marco's gaze lingered, thoughtful and dangerous. He had caught the scent of something amiss. As they left the dining room, Emma heard Marco's voice. Sleep well, brother. Keep your new fiancé close. These days, it's hard to know who to trust. Morning light filtered through heavy curtains as Emma woke disoriented. The king-sized bed felt vast around her. She had insisted on sleeping as far from Victor as possible. He was already gone, his side empty and cold. A knock at the door revealed a young woman carrying a breakfast tray. "I'm Lucia, assigned to assist you. Mr. Salvatore asked me to inform you that you have a busy day ahead." Breakfast, then preparation for the press conference at noon. Press conference? To announce your engagement publicly. Lucia moved to the closet, removing a slate blue dress. Mr. Salvatore was quite specific about today's appearance. Emma picked at the breakfast, appetite gone. Where is he now? Handling business. He'll meet you downstairs at 11. Lucia hesitated. If I may offer advice, the family is curious about you. Be careful what you say. Are you warning me about something specific? Lucia's eyes darted to the door. Mr. Marco has been asking questions about your background, your family. He sent people to the diner where you worked. They were thorough. Cold dread spread through Emma's chest. Did they learn anything? I don't know, but Mr. Marco doesn't involve himself unless he suspects something. After Lucia left, Emma assessed her surroundings carefully. Victor's suite was minimalist but luxurious. One wall was dominated by framed photographs, Victor with politicians, businessmen, celebrities. A smaller frame caught her attention, a much younger Victor with an older man who shared his features. His father, she presumed, the man who had ordered the continuation of the feud that had claimed her family. She was examining the photo when Victor entered. "Curious about your enemy?" he asked. Emma replaced the frame carefully. "Know thy enemy, isn't that what they say?" Victor approached, assessing her appearance. "The dress suits you. I'm thrilled you approve of your puppet strings. Your defiance is refreshing, if pointless." He checked his watch. "We leave in 15 minutes. The press will expect a certain dynamic between us." "You mean they'll expect me to look like I'm in love with you, not being coerced?" "Precisely." Victor stepped closer. "Last night was a dress rehearsal. Today is the performance of your life. Convince me." Emma steeled herself, then reached up to straighten his tie, an intimate gesture. "Is this what you want? The pretense of affection?" "What I want is for you to value your life enough to make this believable." Their eyes locked in silent battle. Then Emma slid her hand to his face, caressing his jaw. "Like this?" Something flickered in Victor's eyes, surprise at her sudden compliance. "Better. But your eyes still show hatred. I can't change that." "Then don't look at me." The press conference was held in the garden, a picturesque setting for announcing an engagement. A dozen reporters waited, photographers poised to capture the moment. Victor kept Emma close, his arm around her waist. She fixed a smile on her face that she hoped conveyed joy rather than terror. "Mr. Salvatore, is it true you're engaged? Who's the lucky lady?" Victor stepped to the microphone. "Thank you for coming. I've asked you here to introduce the woman who has changed my life. My fiancée, Emma Bennett." Camera flashes erupted as Emma stepped forward, the diamond ring prominently displayed. "How did you meet?" called a reporter. Victor glanced at Emma, commanding her to answer. She leaned toward the microphone. "At a charity auction. I was cataloging the art pieces. Victor outbid everyone for a painting I had admired. He said it reminded him of my eyes." A collective sigh rose from the female reporters. "When's the wedding?" another voice called. "We haven't set a date," Victor replied. "But soon. When you know, you know." He turned to Emma and she initiated a kiss that would photograph well. His lips met hers with practiced ease. As they broke apart, Emma caught sight of Marco at the back of the crowd, his calculating gaze fixed on her. Beside him was a man she hadn't seen before, older, with a thick scar, watching with undisguised suspicion. "One more question," Victor announced, already guiding Emma away. "Miss Bennett, what attracted you to Victor Salvatore?" "His business empire has been rumored to have controversial connections." The question hung dangerously. Emma felt Victor tense beside her. Looking directly at the reporter, Emma forced warmth into her voice. What attracted me was his strength, his absolute certainty in who he is and what he wants. When a man like that decides you're his, what woman could resist? Victor's eyes darkened as he looked at her, something genuine flashing across his face. The cameras captured the moment, a powerful man captivated by his bride-to-be. Once inside and away from prying eyes, Emma let the facade drop, pulling away from Victor's touch. Was that convincing enough for you? Victor studied her with renewed interest. You're better at deception than I expected, a useful trait. Before he could say more, Marco approached with the scarred man. Quite a performance, brother, Marco remarked. Mother will be pleased with the publicity. Victor positioned himself between Emma and the two men. Emma, you've met my brother. This is Vincent Russo, a business associate. Russo's eyes bored into Emma. You look familiar. Have we met before? I don't believe so, Emma replied carefully. Perhaps it's a resemblance to someone, Russo mused, gaze dropping to her throat. Family traits can be so persistent. As Victor guided her away, Emma heard Russo mutter to Marco, Check the Costello girls' photos again. There's something there. Back in Victor's suite, Emma rounded on him. They know, or they suspect. That man, Russo, he's investigating me. Russo was your grandfather's enforcer before switching sides, Victor confirmed. He would recognize Costello traits. A sharp knock interrupted. Lucia stood there, visibly distressed. Mr. Salvatore, your mother requests your presence. Immediately. There's been an incident. Victor's expression hardened. Stay here. Lock the door. Open it for no one but me. As he left, Emma watched from the window as security personnel began running toward the front of the property. Unable to remain idle, she searched Victor's suite. In his desk, she found a locked drawer. Using a hairpin from her updo, she managed to pick the simple lock. Inside was a file labeled Costello. Her hands trembling, Emma opened it to find newspaper clippings, photographs, and handwritten notes spanning decades. The systematic destruction of her family, documented in Victor's hand. The most recent addition was a photograph of a woman who looked startlingly like Emma, her mother, Maria Costello. Across the image, someone had scrawled, Confirmed pregnant. Heir must be eliminated. This was the proof. The Salvatores had hunted her pregnant mother, intending to kill both of them. By some miracle, her mother had escaped and kept Emma hidden for 25 years. Until now. The sound of the door opening made Emma slam the drawer shut, but not before grabbing the photograph. She turned to find Marco standing in the doorway, triumph in his eyes. Hello, Miss Costello, he said softly. I believe we need to have a private conversation about your engagement to my brother. Marco closed the door behind him. Don't bother screaming, he advised. Security is dealing with a situation at the main gate. An apparent bomb threat. Convenient timing. I don't know what you're talking about, Emma managed, though the photograph burned in her pocket. Marco smiled coldly. The pendant was my first clue, identical to the Costello crest. Then your face. You look remarkably like your mother. He removed a folded document from his jacket. Your mother was Maria Costello, who became Rebecca Bennett after she fled New York pregnant with the Costello heir. He tossed the paper onto the desk, her birth certificate original and unaltered. What game is Victor playing? Marco asked. Is it possible my ruthless brother has developed a weakness? Emma forced herself to stand straighter. If you're so convinced I'm a threat, why not kill me yourself? Because you're more valuable to me alive than dead. You're the key to something I've wanted for a very long time. Understanding dawned. You want to use me against Victor. To take control of the family. My brother has led the Salvatores for 5 years, Marco continued, bitterness edging his voice. 5 years of caution and compromise, weakening our legacy while pretending to strengthen it. Emma saw her opportunity and seized it. And you think I'd help you against the man who's keeping me alive? I think you'd do anything to survive, Marco countered. including switching allegiances to the brother who could offer you something Victor never would. And what's that? Marco closed the distance between them, his hand closing around her throat, not squeezing, but resting there as a reminder. Revenge. Against the family that slaughtered yours, starting with Victor himself. Emma didn't flinch, meeting his gaze steadily. You expect me to believe you'd spare me when you've hunted my family for generations? Business and pleasure are different matters, Marco replied, his thumb tracing her jawline. The last Costello, aligned with the new Salvatore leadership. It sends a powerful message. Emma's hand moved imperceptibly toward the letter opener on the desk. Here's my offer, Marco continued. Help me depose my brother. Share what he's told you, what he's planning. Be seen with me in ways that undermine his authority. When it's done, I'll legitimize you through marriage, and your mother's family name will be restored through our protection. And if I refuse? Marco's grip tightened fractionally. Then I expose you as the Costello heir. Victor's deception will be revealed, weakening him, but you'll be dead by nightfall. My mother would insist on it. The sound of commotion outside provided the distraction Emma needed. As Marco glanced toward the noise, she brought the letter opener up, not aiming to kill, but to create distance. The blade sliced across his forearm as he jerked back. Before he could recover, Emma bolted for the bathroom, slamming and locking the door behind her. That was unwise, Marco called through the door, his voice tight with controlled rage. Emma struggled with the window latch, panic rising as she heard Marco working at the bathroom door lock. The window finally gave way, revealing a narrow ledge 2 stories above the garden. Behind her, the door began to open, a key turning in the lock. The door began to open just as Emma slipped through the window, clinging to the ledge. Her only option was to move sideways toward the decorative trellis, hoping it would support her weight. Marco's head appeared at the window, eyes widening when he spotted her precariously balanced on the narrow ledge. Don't be foolish, he called, making no move to follow her. There's nowhere to go. Emma ignored him, inching sideways toward the trellis. The blue dress hampered her movement, pulling tight across her thighs. Just as her fingers grasped the trellis, the sound of a gunshot cracked through the air. Emma froze, but saw guards running toward the front of the property. Something more significant than her escape was happening. Taking advantage of the chaos, Emma began descending the trellis, its wood creaking under her weight. Halfway down, a section broke away, sending her scrambling for purchase. She managed to grab another crossbeam, but not before the splintered wood tore through her palms. Gritting her teeth against the pain, she continued downward, finally dropping to land behind a row of hedges. The dress was torn and dirty, her hands bleeding, but she was out. Keeping low, Emma navigated through the gardens, heading away from the commotion. If she could reach the perimeter wall, there might be a way through. She had nearly reached the rose garden when Victor stepped out from behind a statue, a gun held casually at his side. Going somewhere? Emma straightened. Your brother knows who I am. He offered me a deal. Help him overthrow you in exchange for protection. If Victor was surprised, he didn't show it. And you decided running was a better option than betraying me. How touching. I decided surviving was better than trusting either Salvatore brother, Emma corrected. What's happening at the front gate? A diversion, Victor replied, examining her bleeding hands with clinical detachment. Not mine, which means Marco has allies making a move. Emma pulled her hands away. He has my birth certificate, proof of who I am. Of course he does. Marco has been suspicious since I became the head of the family. He has files on everyone. Then your plan has failed. I need to disappear. Victor caught her arm. The moment you leave my protection, you're dead. I'm dead if I stay too. Only if we allow Marco to control the narrative. We need to move. Now. Against her better judgment, Emma followed Victor through a hidden passage in the garden wall, a small door concealed by ivy. They emerged into a wooded area beyond the formal grounds. Where are we going? She whispered. Somewhere Marco won't think to look. Victor guided her toward a small groundskeeper's cottage. My grandfather's hunting retreat, now my private sanctuary. Emma entered cautiously, noting the sparse but comfortable furnishings. Victor secured the door, then closed heavy curtains that blocked any view from outside. Your hands need attention, he said. Sit. Too exhausted to argue, Emma complied, watching as Victor retrieved a first aid kit. He worked in silence, cleaning the cuts from her palms with unexpected gentleness. Why are you helping me? Emma finally asked. If Marco exposes me, your position is compromised. The smart play would be to eliminate me. Victor's hands paused. The smart play is rarely the only play. He resumed bandaging her right hand. Marco's actions have forced an acceleration of my plans. Which are what, exactly? Victor finished with her hands and studied her with that penetrating gaze. For a moment, Emma thought he might tell her the truth. Instead, he moved to a cabinet, retrieving a bottle and 2 glasses. You should rest. Tomorrow will require all your strength. That's not an answer. No, it's not. He raised his glass in a mock toast. To survival, Emma Costello. The game has only just begun. The cottage's narrow bed creaked as Emma shifted, sleep evading her despite exhaustion. Victor had taken position in an armchair by the window, a silhouette against the faint moonlight filtering through the curtains. His breathing was too controlled for sleep. He was watching, waiting. For what? Emma couldn't guess. How long do we stay here? She finally asked, breaking the tense silence. Until I've neutralized the immediate threat. Victor's voice was low, barely audible. Marco will have men searching the estate grounds, but he won't think to look beyond them, not initially. And your mother? Will she support you or Marco? A soft, humorless laugh. My mother supports whoever keeps the family strongest. If she believes Marco's claim that I've betrayed the family by harboring a Costello, she'll back him without hesitation. Even against her own son? Especially against her own son. The silhouette shifted as Victor stood, moving to the window to peer through a gap in the curtains. The Salvatore matriarchs have always chosen family legacy over maternal sentiment. Emma sat up, drawing the blanket around her shoulders against the night's chill. You still haven't told me why you're protecting me. The truth, Victor. I deserve that much. For a long moment, he remained silent, his back to her. Then, decision made, he turned. In the dim light, his face was all shadows and angles, unreadable. Your mother didn't just flee with the Costello heir, he said finally. She took something else, something that belongs to me by right. Emma's hand instinctively went to where the pendant would normally hang. The necklace? It's just a family crest. It's much more than that. Victor moved closer, his presence filling the small room. The pendant is a key, literally and figuratively. It unlocks a safe deposit box containing documents that could destroy or elevate the Salvatore family. Your grandfather was very thorough in his contingency planning. What documents? Evidence of arrangements between the original Salvatore patriarch and various government officials, blackmail material dating back decades, and the location of assets hidden from both the government and rival families. Victor's voice took on an edge of cold anger. Your grandfather ensured that if the Costellos fell, they would take the Salvatores with them. Emma processed this information, pieces clicking into place. So you need me because only a Costello by blood can access these documents. The box requires 2 keys, the pendant and a biometric scan of Costello DNA. Victor sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress dipping under his weight. I've spent years searching for that pendant, only to have it walk into my diner around the neck of the last Costello. Your diner, Emma corrected sharply, not mine anymore. Something almost like regret flickered across his face. Your life was collateral damage in a war that began before either of us was born. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for that. The apology, unexpected and surely strategic, still hit Emma with surprising force. My mother died never knowing if she was truly safe. Your family took everything from me. And yet here you are, Victor countered, with the power to save or destroy mine. Emma laughed bitterly. Some power. I'm a prisoner in a game I didn't choose to play. We're all prisoners of our inheritance, Emma. Victor's hand moved to her face, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. The question is, what we do with the hand we're dealt. The intimacy of the gesture, the intensity in his eyes, sent an unwelcome heat through Emma's body. She pulled away, disturbed by her reaction to this man who represented everything she should hate. If I help you get these documents, she said carefully, what happens to me afterward? That depends entirely on you. Victor stood again, creating distance between them. You could disappear with a new identity and enough money to never work again. Or you could stay, as my wife, not just in name. The proposition hung in the air between them, as dangerous as it was unexpected. Before Emma could respond, a sound outside froze them both, the distinctive crunch of footsteps on the gravel path. Victor moved with silent efficiency, retrieving his gun and gesturing for Emma to stay down. He positioned himself beside the door, weapon ready. The footsteps paused outside. Then came a soft, distinct pattern of knocks, 3 quick, 2 slow. Victor's posture relaxed fractionally. He moved to open the door, keeping his body between Emma and the entrance. Lucia stood there, face pale with tension. Mr. Salvatore, I came as quickly as I could. Mr. Marco has men searching the entire property. They found blood on the trellis. Her gaze moved to Emma's bandaged hands. He's telling everyone the Costello heir has infiltrated the family through you, that you're a traitor. And my mother? Lucia hesitated. She's reserving judgment. She wants to see you both alone. She says she knows about the pendant. Victor cursed under his breath. How did you find us? Mrs. Salvatore told me to check here. She said it's where you always hid as a child when your father was angry. Emma watched the flicker of surprise cross Victor's face. His mother had known his hiding place all along. If my mother knows, then Marco may already know as well. Victor made a quick decision. Lucia, return to the house. Tell my mother we'll meet her in 1 hour at the East Gate boathouse. No one else. After Lucia departed, Victor began gathering essentials from around the cottage. Cash, a burner phone, a small black case from beneath a floorboard. We can't trust her, Emma warned, even if she is your mother. Trust has nothing to do with it. Victor tossed Emma a dark jacket. Put this on. We need to move. To the boathouse? In the opposite direction. The boathouse meeting is a test. If Marco's men are waiting there, we'll know my mother has chosen her side. Victor checked his weapon before tucking it into his holster. And if that's the case, we'll need to get out of the city tonight. As they slipped out of the cottage into the darkness, Emma realized with grim clarity that her fate was now inexorably bound to Victor's. Whether that meant survival or destruction remained to be seen. What disturbed her most was the growing uncertainty about which outcome she truly wanted. The rain had started again, a fine mist that clung to Emma's skin as they moved through the woods bordering the Salvatore estate. Victor navigated with the confidence of someone who had mapped escape routes long ago, leading them toward what he described only as contingency transportation. Your entire life is contingency plans, isn't it? Emma whispered as they paused behind a large oak, listening for pursuers. In my position, failure to plan is planning to fail, Victor replied, his eyes scanning the darkness. Usually fatally. The woods gave way to a narrow service road where a nondescript sedan waited, partially hidden by overgrown shrubbery. Victor retrieved a key from a magnetic box hidden beneath the wheel well. Marco will have men watching the main roads, Emma said as they got into the car. Won't they be looking for vehicles leaving the area? They'll be looking for my cars, my drivers. Victor started the engine, keeping the headlights off as he pulled onto the road. This belongs to the gardener who maintains the east grounds. He won't report it missing until morning. The sedan moved quietly through the night, taking back roads away from the city center. Emma watched Victor's profile, illuminated intermittently by passing streetlights. The hard lines of his face revealed nothing of his thoughts. Where are we going? A safe house in the warehouse district. Owned through a shell corporation Marco doesn't know about. Victor's hands were steady on the wheel, his movements precise. We'll regroup there, make contact with allies. You have allies against your own brother? A cold smile flickered across his face. Every king has those who prefer his reign to the alternative. They drove in silence after that, the city gradually transforming around them from affluent neighborhoods to industrial zones. The warehouse district loomed ahead, a maze of concrete and metal structures, most abandoned after manufacturing had moved overseas. Victor pulled the car into an alley between two massive buildings, cutting the engine. From here, we walk, 2 blocks east. The safe house turned out to be the upper floor of what had once been a textile factory, accessed through a freight elevator that groaned ominously as it carried them upward. The space inside was surprisingly comfortable, Spartan but well-equipped with modern furnishings, security monitors, and what appeared to be a fully stocked arsenal locked behind reinforced glass. "Welcome to Purgatory," Victor said, securing the heavy steel door behind them. "That's what my father called this place. Neither heaven nor hell, just somewhere to wait until judgment passes." Emma moved to the windows, wiping condensation from the glass to peer at the rain-slicked streets below. "How long do we wait?" "Not long." Victor checked his watch. "The meeting at the boathouse would have happened 20 minutes ago. My mother will have made her choice by now." As if on cue, the burner phone in Victor's pocket vibrated. He answered without speaking, listening intently before hanging up. "Well?" Emma asked, tension coiling in her stomach. "Marco's men were at the boathouse, armed. My mother wasn't there. She sent her personal guard instead. So she sided with Marco." "Not necessarily." Victor moved to a cabinet, retrieving a bottle of scotch and 2 glasses. "She's playing both sides, waiting to see which horse takes the lead." He poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into each glass, offering one to Emma. "A Salvatore family tradition. We drink to survival on nights when death comes close enough to touch." Emma accepted the glass but didn't drink. "You seem awfully calm for someone whose family is trying to kill him." "This isn't the first time." Victor tossed back his scotch in one smooth motion. "When I took control 5 years ago, there were 3 attempts on my life in the first month. Family business can be competitive. Is that what this is to you? Business? What else would it be? I don't know." Emma set down her untouched glass. "Maybe personal? Your brother clearly hates you. Your mother is willing to sacrifice you. That goes beyond business." Victor's expression hardened. "In my world, there is no separation. Family is business. Business is blood. And what am I in this equation? Business or blood?" The question hung between them, charged with unspoken implications. Victor moved closer, close enough that Emma could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You, Emma Costello," he said quietly, "are the wild card no one anticipated, not even me." His proximity was unsettling, triggering contradictory impulses to flee and to draw closer. Emma stood her ground, refusing to show weakness. "You still need me for the safe deposit box," she reminded him. "That's the only reason I'm still alive." "Is it?" His eyes searched hers, looking for something beyond her defiance. "Marco offered you a similar deal, yet you chose to run rather than betray me. Why?" "I told you, I don't trust either of you. And yet here you are, following me into the darkness instead of taking your chances elsewhere." Victor's hand rose to brush a strand of damp hair from her face, the gesture unexpectedly gentle. "Perhaps there's another explanation." Emma caught his wrist, intending to push his hand away, but found herself holding it instead. "Don't mistake pragmatism for something it's not." "I never mistake anything," Victor murmured, his gaze dropping to her lips. "Especially not the way you respond when I touch you." The tension between them shifted, transformed into something equally dangerous, but infinitely more complex. Emma knew she should step back, maintain the barrier between captor and captive. Instead, she found herself swaying slightly forward, drawn by a gravity she couldn't explain. The moment shattered as security monitors flickered to life, showing multiple vehicles approaching the building. Victor moved instantly to the screens, all trace of the intimate moment erased from his demeanor. 3 SUVs. Marco's security detail uses that model. He pressed a button that activated additional camera feeds. They've found us. How? Emma asked, heart pounding. You said Marco didn't know about this place. He didn't. Victor's expression darkened with realization. Which means we have a traitor in our midst. The burner phone rang again. This time, Victor put it on speaker. I have to admit, brother, I'm impressed. Marco's voice filled the room, smug and calculating. You've managed to stay one step ahead so far, but that ends now. How did you find us, Marco? A laugh crackled through the speaker. Your little maid, Lucia. So loyal to you, until we found her brother in that gambling hole in Chinatown. Amazing how quickly loyalty shifts when family is at stake. Something you're learning firsthand, I imagine. Emma watched as Victor's knuckles whitened around the phone. What do you want? The same thing I've always wanted. What's rightfully mine? Marco's voice hardened. The Costello girl and the pendant. Give me both, and you might still have a place in the family. Under my leadership, of course. And if I refuse? Then my men will storm that building, and I'll take what I want anyway. You have 5 minutes to decide, brother. The line went dead. Victor immediately moved to the arsenal, unlocking it with a code and selecting weapons with practiced efficiency. We need to go, now, he said, handing Emma a small handgun. There's a tunnel access in the storage room. It leads to the river. Emma took the gun, the weight unfamiliar in her hand. You're not considering his offer? Victor checked his own weapon, face grim. Marco has no intention of letting either of us live, regardless of what I choose. The moment he has you and the pendant, we're both expendable. So we run. For now. Victor's eyes met hers, burning with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. But understand this, Emma. I will reclaim what's mine. My family, my position, my legacy. And Marco will pay for his betrayal in blood. The raw power in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, Emma felt a disturbing thrill of alignment with his determination. In that moment, facing death together had created a bond that transcended their history as enemies. Then let's make sure we live long enough for your revenge, she said, following him toward the escape route as the sound of men breaching the building echoed from below. The tunnel beneath the warehouse was a relic of prohibition, narrow, damp, and smelling of the river that waited at its end. Victor led the way with a small tactical flashlight, the beam casting long shadows that seemed to reach for them with ghostly fingers. How much further? Emma whispered, the gun clutched tightly in her hand, her injured palms stinging beneath the bandages. Another 100 yards. Victor's voice was barely audible over the distant sound of water. When we reach the river, there's a maintenance ladder that leads to a dock. I have a boat moored there. Behind them came the muffled echo of an explosion, Marco's men blasting through to the tunnel. The sound spurred them forward, jogging now despite the slippery ground. They're gaining, Emma warned, glancing back to see faint lights bobbing in the darkness. Victor grabbed her arm, pulling her into a small alcove barely visible in the tunnel wall. Alternative route, he explained, sliding aside what appeared to be solid brick to reveal a secondary passage. The original tunnel was compromised years ago. I had this added as a contingency. They slipped through the opening, Victor securing it behind them. This new tunnel was even narrower, forcing them to move single file, bent at the waist. Your family really embraced the whole cloak and dagger lifestyle, didn't they? Emma muttered, trying to mask her fear with sarcasm. My grandfather survived the actual Prohibition era, Victor replied. He learned the value of escape routes and hidden doors the hard way. The passage gradually sloped upward, eventually ending at a rusted metal door. Victor pushed it open cautiously, revealing not the river dock Emma had expected, but the back room of what appeared to be a functioning bar. The sounds of music and laughter filtered through the walls. "Change of plans," Victor said, closing the door behind them. "Marco will have men watching the dock by now." He moved to a locker in the corner, retrieving 2 coats and a baseball cap. "Put this on. We're going to walk out the front door." Emma donned the oversized coat, tucking her hair beneath the cap. "Won't his men be watching this place too?" "This establishment operates under special protection. No one enters with weapons or conducts business without permission from the owner." "And who's the owner?" Victor's mouth curved in a rare, genuine smile. "You're looking at him." The bar beyond the storage room was packed with Friday night revelers, the air thick with smoke and the smell of spilled beer. Victor guided Emma through the crowd with a hand at the small of her back, nodding occasionally to staff members who registered recognition but made no obvious acknowledgement. They had nearly reached the exit when Emma spotted a familiar face at the bar, one of Marco's security men, nursing a drink while scanning the crowd. She squeezed Victor's arm in warning. Without breaking stride, Victor pulled her into an intimate embrace, his back to the threat, shielding her face from view. To anyone watching, they were just another couple stealing a moment in a crowded bar. "Kiss me," he murmured against her ear, his breath warm on her skin. "Make it convincing." Emma hesitated only a fraction of a second before rising on tiptoes to press her lips against his. Unlike the performative kisses they had shared for his family and the press, this one served a purpose they both understood: survival. Yet something else flared between them, a heat that transcended the necessity of the moment. Victor's hand tangled in her hair, dislodging the cap as he deepened the kiss. Emma's body responded of its own accord, molding against him, her fingers gripping the lapels of his coat. When they finally broke apart, breathless and disoriented, the guard had moved to the other side of the room, attention diverted elsewhere. "Let's go," Victor said, his voice rougher than before. He retrieved the fallen cap, helping Emma secure it again before leading her toward the exit. Outside, the night air was a shock after the heated interior, clearing Emma's head of the lingering effects of Victor's kiss. They walked quickly down the street, heads lowered against the continuing drizzle, blending with other pedestrians seeking shelter from the weather. "Where to now?" Emma asked once they were several blocks away. "There's a garage 3 streets over with another vehicle." Victor checked his watch. "By now, Marco will have men at all my known properties and watching the usual transportation routes out of the city. So we need to do something unexpected." Victor glanced at her with something like approval. "Exactly." The garage turned out to be beneath an unassuming apartment building, accessed through a service entrance protected by a keypad. Inside waited not the luxury vehicle Emma had come to associate with Victor, but a battered pickup truck with out-of-state plates. "Get in," Victor instructed, unlocking the truck. "We have a long drive ahead." As they pulled out of the garage, Emma noticed Victor taking a circuitous route through back streets, doubling back occasionally to ensure they weren't followed. "Are you going to tell me where we're headed?" "Upstate," Victor replied, eyes constantly checking the rearview mirror. "I have a property there that's not in my name. Remote enough to regroup, close enough to return quickly when the time comes." "When the time comes for what?" "To reclaim what's mine." Victor's expression was resolute, carved from stone. "Marco has made his move. Now I make mine." Emma studied his profile, illuminated by passing streetlights. "Why am I really here, Victor? You could have gotten the pendant without bringing me along. You could have forced me to access the safe deposit box already." For a long moment he was silent, guiding the truck onto the highway heading north. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but certain. "Because in chess, the most valuable piece is often the one your opponent never sees coming." His eyes met hers briefly. "Marco expects me to use you as a tool. He doesn't expect you to be an ally. And am I your ally? That, Emma Costello, is entirely up to you. Victor's hand moved from the gear shift to cover hers, the gesture both possessive and questioning. But I think you've already made your choice. Every time you've had the opportunity to betray me, you've chosen not to. Emma didn't pull her hand away, unsettled by the truth in his words. Maybe I'm just waiting for the right moment. Or maybe you've recognized that we want the same thing. And what's that? Freedom, Victor said simply. From the legacies we didn't choose, from the blood debts we didn't incur. The words resonated uncomfortably in Emma's chest, striking a chord she hadn't known existed. She had spent her entire life running from a family history that had claimed her before she was even born. Perhaps Victor, in his own way, was doing the same, trying to reshape a legacy of violence into something he could control. As the city lights faded behind them, replaced by the darkness of open countryside, Emma felt the weight of a decision forming. Not just about Victor, or the pendant, or even her survival, but about who she would choose to be when this was over. Emma Bennett or Emma Costello, or perhaps someone entirely new, forged in the crucible of this ordeal. The rain had stopped by the time they turned onto a gravel road leading deep into the woods. Victor drove with the confidence of familiarity, navigating the twisting path until a cabin appeared, its dark silhouette barely visible among the trees. "Home for the moment," Victor said, parking beside the structure. As Emma stepped from the truck, the night air crisp with the scent of pine and approaching dawn, she felt a strange sense of crossing a threshold. Whatever happened next would determine not just her future, but the future of the man beside her. The man who should have been her sworn enemy, but who had become something far more complicated. The pendant that had started everything was still in Victor's possession, a physical reminder of what bound them together. But Emma was beginning to realize that something stronger than a silver necklace now linked their fates, something neither of them had anticipated when they first locked eyes across a diner counter. Something that might save them both, or destroy them utterly. The cabin was rustic but well-appointed, clearly designed as a retreat rather than merely a safe house. Victor moved through it with practiced efficiency, checking security systems and sightlines while Emma took in her surroundings. The stone fireplace, the comfortable furniture, the wall of windows overlooking a small lake now silvered with pre-dawn light. "My father brought me here to teach me to hunt," Victor explained, setting down his weapon and shrugging off his coat. It was the only place he ever seemed at peace. Emma was struck by the note of vulnerability in his voice, a crack in the armor he wore so seamlessly. Hard to imagine a Salvatore at peace. "We're not born monsters, Emma." Victor moved to the fireplace, arranging logs with methodical precision. "We become what our circumstances demand. Is that how you justify it? The violence, the destruction of families like mine?" Victor struck a match, the small flame illuminating the harsh planes of his face. "I don't justify it. I survive it. And when possible, I change it." As the fire caught, spreading warmth through the cabin, Victor retrieved a satellite phone from a hidden compartment beneath the floorboard. "I need to contact my allies, assess the situation back in the city." Emma nodded, suddenly aware of her exhaustion, the adrenaline of their escape finally fading. She sank onto the sofa, watching as Victor made a series of calls, his voice too low for her to hear the specifics. When he finished, his expression was grim but determined. "Marco has seized control of the main estate and frozen all accessible accounts. He's telling the family and our business associates that I've betrayed our interests by aligning with a Costello." "But that's exactly what you did," Emma pointed out, "just not for the reasons he thinks." Victor crossed to a cabinet, removing the pendant from around his neck and placing it on the coffee table between them. The silver gleamed in the firelight, the Costello crest a stark reminder of all that had brought them to this moment. "Tomorrow, we go to the safe deposit box," he said, eyes fixed on the pendant. "The documents inside will either secure my position or destroy it entirely." "And then what?" Emma asked, the question that had been haunting her finally given voice. What happens to me once you have what you need? Victor looked up, meeting her gaze with an intensity that stole her breath. That depends on what you want, Emma. What I want, she laughed bitterly. What I want is my life back. The one your family stole from me 26 years ago. I can't give you that. Victor moved to sit beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. But I can offer you a different life, one where you're no longer hiding, no longer running. As your wife? Your puppet queen in the Salvatore Empire? Victor shook his head, a hint of genuine amusement in his eyes. You've proven rather definitively that you'd make a terrible puppet. No. What I'm offering is a partnership. Partnership? The word hung between them, laden with implications Emma wasn't sure she was ready to confront. The Costello name still carries weight among the old families, Victor explained. Combined with Salvatore influence, we could reshape the entire power structure. End the cycle of violence that's defined both our lives. It sounded suspiciously like peace, something Emma had never dared imagine possible. Why would I trust you with that? After everything your family has done? Because despite what you think, I'm not my father or my grandfather. Victor's voice was quiet, but certain. I've spent 5 years trying to legitimize our operations, reduce the bloodshed, build something that could survive without constant violence. And that's why Marco wants you gone. Because you're changing things. Evolution is always threatening to those who profit from the status quo. Victor's hand moved to cover hers, the contact sending an unwelcome shiver up her arm. I need those documents to complete what I've started, and I need you to help me access them. Emma studied his face, searching for the lies she expected. Instead, she found something that frightened her more: sincerity. And if I refuse? Then I'll ensure your safety elsewhere. New identity, new location, enough money to start over. His grip tightened slightly. But I don't think that's what you want anymore. You don't know what I want. Don't I? Victor leaned closer, his gaze dropping to her lips. I think you want what I want, Emma. A chance to rewrite the ending to a story that was started long before we were born. The air between them charged with something that transcended the hostility that should have defined their relationship. Emma knew she should pull away, maintain the distance between Costello and Salvatore that generations of bloodshed had established. Instead, she found herself swaying toward him, drawn by a gravity as inevitable as it was forbidden. This time, when his lips met hers, there was no audience to perform for, no enemy to hide from. Just the undeniable truth that somewhere in the chaos of the past 48 hours, captor and captive had become something neither could have anticipated. His hands framed her face with unexpected gentleness, the kiss deepening as Emma responded, her resistance crumbling beneath the weight of emotions she couldn't name. When they finally broke apart, both breathless and disoriented, the world had shifted on its axis. This changes nothing, Emma whispered, even as her hands remained clutched in the fabric of his shirt. It changes everything, Victor countered, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. And you know it. Before she could respond, the satellite phone rang, shattering the moment. Victor answered it, his expression immediately hardening as he listened to the caller. When? He demanded, standing abruptly. How many? Another pause. No? Maintain position. I'll handle it. He hung up, already moving toward his discarded weapon. What's happened? Emma asked, alarm replacing the warmth that had filled her moments before. Marco's found us. They're 10 minutes out, at least 3 vehicles. Victor checked his gun with practiced efficiency. We need to move. Now. Emma grabbed her coat. How did they find us so quickly? The only people who knew about this place were my father, who's dead, and my mother. Victor's expression was grim. It seems she's made her choice. They hurried outside to the truck, but Victor bypassed it, leading Emma instead toward a path that disappeared into the dense woods behind the cabin. The truck will be the first place they look, he explained, retrieving a backpack hidden beneath the cabin's porch. "There's an old hunting blind half a mile in, well concealed. We can wait them out there." They moved swiftly through the trees, the first light of dawn filtering through the canopy above. Emma struggled to keep pace with Victor, her city-bred instincts ill-suited to navigating the wilderness. Behind them came the distant sound of vehicles approaching the cabin. "Almost there," Victor murmured, helping her over a fallen log. Just beyond that ridge. The hunting blind was little more than a weathered wooden structure elevated among the branches of a massive oak, but it offered both concealment and a view of the path they had traveled. Victor helped Emma climb the narrow ladder, then followed, pulling it up behind them to eliminate any trace of their presence. Through a small window, they watched as Marco's men swarmed the cabin, weapons drawn. Marco himself emerged from a black SUV, directing the search with cold efficiency. Even from this distance, his fury was palpable in every sharp gesture. "He's desperate," Victor observed quietly. "He knows if I reach those documents before he finds us, his coup is finished." Emma huddled closer to Victor for warmth, the morning air still carrying the chill of night. "What's the plan? We can't stay here forever. We wait until they move to the secondary search areas, then circle back to the road. I have another vehicle hidden 2 miles east." Victor checked his watch. "With luck, we can reach the bank by noon." The intimacy of their shared space, the whispered words, the constant threat of discovery. It all created a strange bubble where nothing existed but the two of them and their unlikely alliance. Emma found herself studying Victor's profile, wondering how the man who should have been her greatest enemy had become her only hope for survival. More than that, how he had become someone she was starting to trust. The sound of approaching footsteps silenced them both. Below, 2 of Marco's men passed directly beneath their hiding place, scanning the forest floor for tracks. "Spread out," one ordered. "The boss wants them found before noon. Alive if possible, but he'll take dead if necessary." As the men moved deeper into the woods, Emma released the breath she'd been holding. Victor's arm tightened around her shoulders in silent reassurance. They remained frozen for nearly an hour, watching as the search gradually shifted away from their location. Finally, Victor signaled it was time to move. They descended carefully, every sound magnified by the tension coursing through them. The journey through the forest was torturous, each step measured, each breath controlled. Twice they were forced to hide as search parties passed nearby. By the time they reached the concealed vehicle, an ancient Land Rover hidden beneath a camouflage tarp, Emma's nerves were stretched to breaking point. Victor drove with focused intensity, taking back roads to avoid potential checkpoints. Neither spoke much, the weight of what awaited them at the bank hanging between them. "What if the documents aren't what you expect?" Emma finally asked as they approached the city limits. "What if they destroy your family completely?" "Then I rebuild from the ashes." Victor's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "But first, I deal with Marco." The bank was an imposing structure in the financial district, old money evident in every line of its architecture. Victor parked 2 blocks away, assessing the street for signs of surveillance. "Marco will have men watching banks throughout the city," he said, checking his weapon one last time. "But he doesn't know which one holds the deposit box. We have the element of surprise, but not for long." As they prepared to exit the vehicle, Victor suddenly turned to Emma, his expression more open than she had ever seen it. "Whatever happens next," he said quietly, "remember that you had a choice, and you chose to be here." Emma nodded, understanding the significance of what he was saying. She was no longer a captive, no longer merely a pawn in the Salvatore family game. She was a participant, a partner, by her own decision. "Let's finish this," she replied, taking the pendant he offered and placing it around her neck. The weight of it felt different now, less a burden of the past, and more a key to a future she was only beginning to envision. Together, they stepped into the sunlight, walking side by side toward a confrontation that would either seal their fates forever or offer the chance at something neither had dared to imagine. a life beyond the blood feud that had defined both their families for generations, a life they might, against all odds, share.